Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Judas. I have a good one for you today because this is one of those dailies which just turned to be phenomenal, at least in my opinion. And it was a kind of daily which really doesn't give you any tools to go on, you don't get any good items, you don't get any soul hearts or black hearts or health containers, you don't get any consumables even, and it's just up to you and your base stats and the Book of Belial to actually carry you through like the first 3 floors with some really hard enemies and only 1 health, which means you can get hit against some enemies, but against most enemies you just can't afford getting hit at all, because there's no way to recuperate or regenerate that health, but also some enemies will just kill you outright. Because this is a hard mode daily, you can expect more champions, and because champions deal 1 full heart of damage, nowhere is safe, and you just have to be very careful and meticulous and methodical in how you approach some of these rooms. And I really like this kind of dailies because I think they showcase skill more than any other type of daily. And I'm not saying that usual dailies don't showcase skill, or maybe because I made it to the end of this one I'm saying I'm a good player, because I don't think that's the case. But I'm saying if I had more of these dailies, or at least more of this type of dailies, then I feel like skill would be more prominent in Isaac than it is now, just because it's so hard to actually get through these initial rooms to get to the end. And a skill plays a large factor, but obviously there's still some element of variance which you really can't control, and I would say that in most cases, they just do it with some random enemies and how their AI works. So for example, I slowed that room down which had gapers, and when you kill them they turn into headless gapers. And it would have been so easy for one of those headless gapers to walk into my path, and I was so lucky that that actually didn't happen. I imagine a lot of runs ended just in that particular room, because maybe they popped a head of a champion gaper, it started walking around, and then you blocks your path, and maybe it shoots a random tear in your direction, deals 1 full heart of damage, and you're just essentially dead. And there's nothing you really can do about in that situation, and it's a shame. You know, I really feel like a part of this is down to that it's not really fair with how some variance works, and that you should never be in a position where you can die from what bad RNG roll. But then again, this is Isaac, and I still feel like there's a lot of skill involved. Obviously you can try and play so you don't put yourself in that position, you try to maybe dissolve and kill the easy enemies first, so you only have the champion variants to deal with at the end. But there's some things that you can do to kind of alleviate that, and I really enjoy that aspect of thinking, because when you enter a room, usually just how do I kill it as fast as possible, but when you have a very weak run, and you really can die in just 1 single hit, it becomes this almost like a puzzle, where you just have to figure out which enemies to take out first, in which direction to go, or maybe in which direction to dodge, and I enjoy that aspect of the game. And I really feel like whenever I have a slow run, where I don't have a lot of HP, and I know I can take my time, so because I don't want to die obviously, I feel like I can take my time, and then I just start playing really well. But as soon as I get some HP, like in this case, I got 2 Spirit Hearts, which was a war of attrition to get to this point. I just end up taking a random half heart of damage from a Silkworm. So I guess that's just that a mind shift that you get when you're in a weak position. You just know that you can get hit, but as soon as you get that single HP upgrade or maybe some Spirit Hearts, I just go into that mode. Okay, you know, now that I'm safe, or at least I know I can afford a hit, I can start being a bit more reckless and just trying to get through these rooms as fast as possible. And that's what I did, and I feel like it paid off in the end, at least in the sense that I was able to get fast enough to the objectives. I explored the majority of the rooms, and I was able to be still fast enough to catch one of the rushes, which I feel like in this case was pretty good. And what really got me was just how, again, large these floors were, and especially on the 3rd floor. I think I finished the 3rd floor at the 10th minute, so that means I was playing this game for 10 minutes with basically no chances of getting anything out of the treasure rooms. I think I missed 2 treasure rooms in total. No, just 1, because the 2nd floor I didn't have a key. But yeah, I also didn't go to the shop, and it's a shame, because then I used my only last key on the 3rd floor to try to buy a Spirit Heart from the shop, but there wasn't any Spirit Hearts in the shop. So I was just stuck in a position where there was really nothing you could have done. And maybe you could have saved that first bomb that you get. I used it to find the 2nd secret room, and I felt like that was very important, because there are some room variations which can give you a Spirit Heart or a Black Heart, and I feel like prioritizing that is much more important than just anything else. But looking back at it, I definitely should have saved my 2nd bomb, because the ideology was, at least in my case, if there is a hard boss that I have to fight, something like maybe the Haunt or maybe Ragman or whatever, I would much rather have that soul heart protection early on, because I don't want to just die outright on the 1st floor with Judas. That would be embarrassing. But looking back at it, I think it would have definitely been a better choice just to save that single bomb, because on the 2nd floor I can still try to find the 2nd secret room, but also there's a possibility of a Tinted Rock, which there were, or maybe even better, there were some rocks and chests hidden behind the rocks, and then maybe I could have gotten something out of that. So it was just one of those things which I feel like there's really no right decisions, because it all depends on how you look at it. So if you went into that first boss room and that second secret room thinking that I'm gonna find a hard boss, I really want some extra protection, then it's a good idea to use that bomb. But if you felt like you need to save that bomb, so you maximize your usage of it, try to get as much as possible that you possibly can, then you save it for the second floor, and maybe you blew up a tinted rock, you got some soul hearts, or maybe you blow up that rock and open the chest and got more consumables out of that. And I think all of that would be great. And if you did do that, I'm really wondering what was in that chest on the second floor, which was hidden behind the rocks. I really feel like there was something of value there, but there was also a key which would have allowed you to go to the treasure room, I think, and that would also probably give you something good, or maybe it wouldn't give you something good. But if it did give you something good, please let me know, because I'm really interested in seeing just how that one single bomb could have really shaped the run. But with that said, I do expect that a lot of people probably failed this daily very early on, just because up until the third floor, obviously, there's a lot of enemies which have random patterns. They can block you off, deal one full heart of damage. It's very easy for you to die, essentially. And I feel like in this particular case, because people, I would say a lot of players tend to rely on just how easy Isaac has gotten in some sense, and just eating a damage or maybe a hit or two of damage sometimes isn't too bad, but obviously in this position you really can't do that. And if you haven't grew up, or because I've always played this game very methodologically, like very strategically, I feel like maybe I'm a bit better at these kinds of dailies than the average person. I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm just trying to say that I feel like this is a hard daily, and I feel like just if you get through that initial hoop at the start, you're pretty much bound to rank well, at least in relative sense. Obviously, I still feel like there's some room for improvement. Like in this case, I missed boss rush for no apparent reason. I just took more time than it was really necessary, and I had this cute play with the Diplopia and the Yara rune, and I figured I could get a ton of the two of spades cards, and then again I also messed it up, because what I should have done is drop the Yara rune on the ground, duplicated it, and then used my Yara rune twice to duplicate the keys, and that way I would have gotten 99 keys. It wasn't too bad all in all, because I was still able to kind of cap out my keys, I think, in the end, but still it was a mistake. And because I tried even to make that cute play, I was just laced for boss rush, and obviously that cost me a lot of points in that sense. But just because, like I said before, this is one of those dailies which I expect not a lot of people even finished, and even if they did, I do expect a lot of people maybe got hit at some point, so they didn't get Brimstone from that Devil Deal, which again would leave you in a very bad position. And if you did miss that Brimstone, there's still a chance to get Mom's Key on, I think, the next floor, or maybe 2 floors from that, which I think just makes it a bit more fair, because if you didn't get that first good item, you still have another chance to get that second good item, and maybe that one helped you out and carried your run in that sense. And I feel like we really don't pay enough respect to some of these good items, because essentially Brimstone or Mom's Knife in this case just save your run. Sure, you get some other good items, like in this case, if you see what I have, they're all decent and just very useful, but in this case, just having that Brimstone early on just really did just put a lot of hope in me. I remember going through that first 3 floors, and I just seeing that Brimstone, my eyes just shined up and light up. I was so excited. I picked it up, and then the rest was history, basically. So it was, besides that, I did miss boss rush. I was trying to make that cute play. It was a mistake, obviously. It's something I should have avoided. I always have a bad time judging, especially in hard mode dailies, because floors tend to be larger in general. Just how fast I could be going and how much time I can actually take in order to do something. And I felt like I would have enough time to get to Mom. But what was even worse about it is that I had the Answers rune, so I had no excuse. I knew how big the floor was. Obviously, there were still some unfortunate scenarios where I entered rooms which maybe took a bit longer than I expected them to, but then again, I should have accounted for that in my mind, or at least from when I decided to go and start exploring. And I think if I just didn't use Diplopia in that case, maybe if I just hung out to a teleport card, I would have been able to get the boss rush, do that, maybe I would have gotten a good item out of that, and then I would be able to explore the entirety of the Womb 1 and Womb 2, hopefully with another help of an Answers rune. That would have been really cool in that situation, but hey, what can you do? I'm so glad that I did manage to get to the end, and obviously, like, I think I've said this 3 times already, but I never finished the thought. But just because a lot of people didn't finish, losing those 4,000 points from boss rush doesn't make that big of a difference, because I think the relative difference between people who played well is really gonna be very minimal. So, like saying, if you do go to boss rush in this case and you still come to the end, you're gonna be something like 10th maybe, but if you don't, you're gonna be something like 15th, which isn't that huge of a difference. And I feel like it shouldn't matter if it did go to boss rush. What's important in this particular case is just getting to the end, beating Mega Satan and getting that trophy. All in all, it was actually still a very decent run. I was kind of surprised at my overall end score. It was 48,000 in total, which is very close to that 50,000 mark, which I usually strive for on a Mega Satan daily. And you can imagine if I got another 4,500 points from boss rush, that would have easily landed me in like the 52,000s, which has to be one of my best daily performances in quite some while now, even for a Mega Satan daily, which is again very surprising considering how hard this daily was early on. But I guess when you get some damage ups, you get Proptosis, you get Brimstone, and also you get these unnaturally large floors because of the hard mode, then your exploration bonus is just naturally higher, and because of that, of course, you do tend to have more points. And I was excited when I saw my end score and my end rank as well, 48,000 on a 24th place. I think I was something like 11th when I checked Greedbot, so not all too bad. It's surprising. I really enjoyed it. One of my good dailies in the past few days is a daily which is just universally hard, and that's exciting, that's good. It got me some back on my confidence, and I feel like in the future I can start performing well again, and I hope that that's exactly what happens. If you did play the daily, please let me know how it went. I'm really wondering what some deviations were in this one, just because of how heinously difficult it was. Maybe if you got a key somewhere and then maybe you were able to unlock something because of it, maybe you got a Spirit Heart early on. Please, anyway, just share your experience, because I would love to know. I always enjoy doing that and reading that whenever someone has a different experience on a daily which I consider hard or maybe easy, but I realize that not everyone has the same experience, and I guess that's what's exciting about it. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.